Good morning, everybody. It's day 4 of Vlogmas, and I've got a recipe for you. This is in collaboration with Lori's Thrifty Kitchen Pantry. I could not get that out. It's too early. My husband here has some coffee and some of the last wampum Pillsbury pumpkin rolls. And so there they are. Well, they're not all for him. It looks like that's his plate. It's all of them. Anyway, stay tuned because I got cherry winks coming up. Those cherry winks make a beautiful presentation on a Christmas cookie platter because of the cherries in the center, and they're just delicious and they're easy. So there's that. Nothing to frost, they're just easy. Okay, my name is Kendra. This is my channel. Welcome if you're new. Welcome if you're not. Let's get to cooking. Okay, I'm ready. I'm going to preheat my oven. I'm going to go ahead and get going on this. And now all of the ingredients are here, and I'll tell you about them as I add them to the dough. And these are for making them pretty. Don't be a hero. Get the cheap ones. Cornflakes don't have to be cornflakes specifically, the expensive ones. These were super cheap. I got 2 boxes back in October knowing I would need them for Christmas baking. And now I can also use them for other things. You don't need expensive maraschino cherries, but you do need the ones without the seeds because you don't, and no stems either. All you're going to want to do is cut them in half anyway. So being pretty with a stem won't work for this where it would with another, Christmas dessert presentation. I use whole milk, but I'm supposing that you could use 2%, whatever milk you like. I wouldn't use like the nut milks, no soy milk, no almond milk. Unless you specifically look it up and other people have done it. I just never have. Vanilla, eggs, walnuts or pecans, that's it. Granulated sugar and flour. Now, this is, again, in collaboration with Lori's Thrifty Kitchen Pantry, her Christmas cookie exchange collaboration, day 4. So I'll just take a picture of that. And here's my recipe, but it's being shined on because it's on, my husband printed this for me. It's really pretty. So cherry winks, if you want to make one batch, it's 1 cup of granulated sugar, 3/4 of a cup of shortening. I like Crisco, 2 eggs, 2 tablespoons of milk, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1 cup chopped nuts, pecans or walnuts. Let's see, 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, crushed cornflakes, maraschino cherries. So we'll set our oven to 375 degrees. I always bake these on parchment paper on top of my cookie sheet. They come off easier. I'll get to baking. Hey everybody, I got my Christmas baking socks on. It says ho 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 to you. It says oh 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 to me. Merry Christmas. I'm ready. First thing I'm going to do is take my granulated sugar and my Crisco. Now I like butter flavor Crisco the best, but I didn't have enough butter flavor Crisco, so I've used about 1/4 of regular Crisco. And so I'm going to mix this together, cream it well. Got my sugar and the Crisco creamed. I added 1 egg. I add them one at a time. Let them get incorporated and stir down the sides and whatnot. Okay, now the milk and the vanilla have been added, and it smells so vanilla-y and yummy. We'll just cream that together, and that's it for wet, I guess. Yeah, I think that's it for wet ingredients. I'm just going to scrape down these this beater thing. I'm going to tell you the history on this cookie for me, not the history of the actual cookie. I was 30 years old. There was no social media at the time. Well, there was Prodigy, if you're old enough to remember Prodigy. Everybody had dial-up modem, which meant if somebody called while you were doing anything, it screamed like a banshee. So anyway, I was looking for a good cookie recipe because I was involved in a thing called Operation Cookie when Operation Desert Storm was a thing. And this was like 1990, 1991. And a lady who was also involved in the group said, oh, and the reason she said this to me is because there was a media story on it. A media story, not a storm. So she said, you need something, excuse me, that is presentable and colorful because they want that for their camera work. So she said, cherry wicks are the best. And I agree. I love these cookies, and they are pretty on a plate. So the local newspaper came and took pictures in my kitchen, and then the Seattle CBS affiliate came and said, do you want to come to the studio and do it on the news? And so I did that too. And so that's, okay, everything is incorporated here for wet ingredients. And I scraped down the sides and I scraped off the beater. I'll give it one more quick, yada, yada, yada. Here we go. And that's enough. I forgot, I just added the nuts because that's how it said to do it. And now I'm mixing my dry ingredients. I also didn't say, because it cut off, that when I did the interview on Cairo, Olive, 30 years old and nervous as a cat, I just went deer in the headlights during the interview. I did a lot of short one-word answers, and she tried to get it out of me, and he tried to get it out of me. And, oh, it was a disaster for me personally. Maybe it wasn't as bad as it seemed. I'm back, and now here are my dry ingredients. I'm going to whisk these together. Right now I'm doing it with my left hand. I'm afraid I'm going to spray it all over the house, so I'm going to put the camera down and do it correctly and add it to the wet ingredients. And then that's it. That's the dough. And so I've got it going on slow, and I'm just going to add it, you know, about a half a cup at a time for the dry ingredients to incorporate with the wet ingredients. You know how that works, right? You just let it go, and at some point I'll have to turn this off and use a spoon because it'll get thicker. I had some technical difficulties, and one of the guys came and helped me with it. So I stopped the mixer and went all the way to the bottom of the bowl, you know, with spatula to make sure there's no dry mix down there at the very bottom, which happens sometimes. I'm almost done. All I have to do now is crush these off-brand cornflakes, just Kroger brand. And I've already cut these in half. You can also cut them in quarters if you're low. Doesn't make any difference at all. A lot of kids won't even eat the cherries. They throw them to the dog or whatever. Everybody here eats them though. And so I'll roll these in a ball, roll them in crushed cornflakes. Then I'll put them on here and top them with the cherry. $3.75. Okay, I wanted to show you how I get them from the soft goo into here. I make a ball out of them. So I take my cookie scooper and I drop a cookie in there. And then I do this and I drop that on there. You don't have to touch that soft stuff and wipe your hands off each time, and it just sticks really well. Okay, that's all. I should tell you that the actual recipe says to roll in walnut size balls. These aren't as much walnut as they are plum. And so by the time I realized what I was doing, I was already committed and decided I'd go ahead and do a batch like this. I'll probably have to cook it a little longer, but do use a smaller cookie scoop, and I will with the next batch. I want to show you me doing a cookie. So I just stick a half right here, and then I push it down so that it already gets a head start on spreading in the way that I want it to. And just push it down. There you go. You know the rest. All right, into the oven they go, 375, 10 to 12 minutes. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's kind of silly, but it's snaining. It's rain and snow right now. I don't think you can see it on the camera. Anyway, I had a memory about the mailing cookies to service members. After we did that for a while, a bunch of us started sending packages. And so there were both women and men over there at the time. And the women were way more vocal about what they wanted. You know, they didn't have anything for comfort over there at all, it seemed like. And the guys were more interested in food, just food. The only thing we were told we couldn't send was anything that melted, because they were in the desert. And that would have been expensive for us, but at the time, and I don't know if it was because there was some sort of conflict going on, but they allowed us, we live near Fort Lewis, to, as a group, send packages to Fort Lewis where they were put on helicopters and taken wherever, maybe to ships, I don't know. But anyway, it didn't cost that much back then to do. You know, and I had fun, and I wrote to some of the soldiers, men and women, for years and years after it was all over. And it all started with cherry winks, which are in the oven right now. That's silly. Silly story to go with my cookies. Here we go. Cherry winks on a plate. And they're, hardened up enough. Again, make them walnut size, not plum size. I made them too big. The rest of this batter dough, will go into the freezer for cookie baking day. And that's going to be closer to Christmas, like the Saturday before Christmas or something like that. And I'll have several kinds to do that day and not have to worry about the mess of, making it and then baking it, making it and then bake it. I like to do one solid baking day. It's more fun that way. Play some Christmas music, that kind of thing. Anyway, I'm done here. If you like what you see, I hope that you will think about subscribing, think about making a comment. I love to chat. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. I'm about to go watch the Seahawks. I hope they win. And after that, I'm going to watch Dallas. I hope they win.